If you've ever walked out of a meeting wondering why your team takes your peer more seriously than they take you, this one is for you. The signs your team doesn't respect you are rarely loud, and most of them are patterns you've been explaining away for months. I'm Dr. Kara. I work with leaders at the manager, director, and executive level in healthcare, tech, finance, in every room where the stakes are high and the script you were handed isn't working anymore. And after more than 2 decades sitting with leaders in moments exactly like this, I can tell you something most leadership content gets wrong. The respect conversation is not about your team. It's about an agreement that you made with yourself. Today, I'm going to walk you through the quiet signs that respect has started leaking, why it's actually happening, and what to do about it. So let's start with what you've been sensing. The signs that your team doesn't respect you aren't dramatic. They're patterns you've learned to live with. And that's exactly why they keep happening. Here's the first one. They go around you, to your boss, to your peer, to anyone but you, on decisions that should be coming through you first. You find out about a project in a meeting where everyone else already knew. You discover a Slack thread between 2 of your direct reports about something that they should have brought to you. You hear from your boss about a problem one of your people walked right past your office to raise with them. That's not poor communication. That's a vote about whose authority is real in the room. Here's the second one. They renegotiate after you've made the call. You say no, they ask again 2 days later. You make a decision, someone follows up with, "Are you sure?" Or, "I just wanted to flag one more thing." 3 times from the same person, and every time you find yourself explaining a decision one more time, you're teaching the room that your decisions are a starting point for negotiation, not a finish line. Here's the third one. They treat your time as flexible, your deadline as suggestions, your meetings as optional, your asks as last on the list. You set a deadline, it slides. You ask twice, it slides again. You schedule a meeting, someone reschedules it for a 3rd time. You send a request and watch it sit for a week. Look at whose deadlines they're actually meeting. That's where the respect is. And here's the 4th one. They push back on you in ways that they would never push back on your peer or your boss. They interrupt you in meetings. They challenge you publicly when they would take it to a private conversation with anyone else. They talk over you in a room where they would never talk over another leader at the same level. This one is the hardest to name because the moment you name it, you sound too sensitive. You're not too sensitive. You're noticing data. Most leaders explain these patterns away. It's just a personality difference. It's a busy quarter. He's just like that with everyone. No, he's not. And the longer that you explain it away, the more normal it becomes. Let me give you a quick example. A client of mine, a senior director, was in a meeting with me not long ago. She was rattled because earlier that week she had been in a leadership meeting and made a strategic recommendation about restructuring her division. It was met with polite silence. A thanks, we'll think about that. 3 weeks later, her peer made the same recommendation in the same room to the same executives, and he was thanked publicly. His initiative was praised, and the recommendation was greenlit by the end of the meeting. That wasn't one bad day. That was a pattern. And once you start seeing it, you can't unsee it. Before we go into the why, I want to tell you about something I built. It's called Dr. Kara's Leadership Origin Profile. It's a free assessment that tells you exactly how you're showing up as a leader and where these patterns started. Because most of the time, the pattern is older than the job. You can take it at any time. The link is below. Here's where most leadership content gets it wrong. They'll tell you your team doesn't respect you because you're not tough enough. Get firmer, get louder, set harder boundaries. That's the advice, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because your team isn't actually responding to your toughness level. Your team is mirroring an agreement that you made with yourself a long time ago. Let me show you what that means. The first reason, you're over-explaining your decisions. Every meeting, every decision, you give the reasons, the context, the data, the history, the trade-offs. You think you're being transparent. What the room is actually hearing is that your authority is up for negotiation. Because if you are the authority, you don't have to argue the decision. You just have to make it. And every time you over-explain, you overtrain the room to wait you out, to ask one more clarifying question, to push one more round of justification. They're not being disrespectful. They're following the pattern that you're teaching them. The second reason, you're over-delivering to prove that you belong. You're the first one in, the last one out. You're answering Slack messages at 9 p.m. For Pete's sake, take a beat. You are picking up work that should be on someone else's plate because it's faster than asking them again. You're carrying more than your peers, and you're carrying it quietly. Effort doesn't earn respect. Clarity does. The more you overfunction, the smaller your authority gets in the room because your team can see that you're available always. Available people, they're not authorities, they're resources. And let me tell you something. I know about this pattern because I've lived it. I started a behavioral health practice at 26, and by 29, I had 50 employees across 3 locations. And I drove that team with relentless performance pressure, convinced that if I just outworked everyone, no one could question whether I belonged in the seat. What I didn't see at the time was that my team wasn't following me harder. They were quietly pulling away because nobody wants to follow a leader who is performing for their team. The third reason, you're leading from a version of a leader that you absorbed somewhere along the line. Maybe it was the boss that you had at 27 who you swore you would never be. Maybe it was the boss you had at 32 that you actually admired and you've been trying to copy ever since. Maybe it's something you saw in your mother or your father. Maybe it's something you read in a leadership book that didn't quite fit, but you tried to make it fit anyway. Your team can feel performance. They can't always name it, but they pull away from it because nobody respects a performance. They respect a person, a real, genuine, authentic person, a real, genuine, authentic leader. Here's the fourth one. The one underneath all the others. You haven't fully decided you're the authority yet. You hold the title. You sit in the seat. You have the calendar of someone who is in charge. But underneath that, somewhere quieter, you're still asking for permission. Permission to be wrong sometimes. Permission to make a decision someone else doesn't like. Permission to be the one who decides. I remember the day I walked into one of my first big leadership roles. And the moment I sat down in that office, I felt this very specific sensation, like I was walking on a tightrope, pressure to deliver on one side and the need for the team's trust on the other. Each step forward felt precarious. The loud instinct was to clamp down, to prove, to control. That instinct is the same one that keeps you from deciding you're the authority. Because clamping down feels like leadership. It feels like doing something. It's actually permission seeking in a louder costume. And until you decide that you're the authority, nobody else will. That's the why. Now let's talk about what to actually do. Here's the thing about respect. It's not something that you demand. It's something that you stop disqualifying yourself from. And there are specific places where you've been disqualifying yourself without realizing it. Let me walk you through them. Stop negotiating your decisions in real time. I learned this one the hard way. In an early leadership role, I implemented 3 new review processes in a single week. 3 in 1 week. I was convinced that more controls, more layers, more sign-offs would solve every engagement problem that I was watching unfold on my team. But what I actually did was teach them that I didn't trust their judgment. And in return, they stopped trusting mine. Because authority isn't built through more controls. It's built through fewer renegotiations of the ones that you already have. Make the call, hold it. Let the discomfort sit in the room. Someone is going to push back. Someone is going to ask a third qualifying question. Someone is going to say, "Are you sure?" You don't have to answer that question. You can say, "Yes, I'm sure." We can revisit it if new information comes up. And then stop. Stop talking. The discomfort is the work. It's not a sign that you got it wrong. It's a sign that you held. Drop the apology preface. You know the ones. This might be a dumb question, but I might be wrong, but so sorry to interrupt, but I'm thinking out loud here, but every one of those phrases trains the room to weight your voice less. They don't make you likable. They make you optional. Cut them, get rid of them, and leave them out. Start the sentence at, I think, or I've decided, or here's what we're doing. You don't have to soften your voice to be respected. You actually have to stop softening it. Receive what's actually happening in the room before you respond. Here's the image I want you to hold. Imagine pressing the pause button on a movie right before the climactic moment. That split second where everything is hanging in the balance. You can see every character's face, every detail, every piece of the room. That's what receiving feels like. It's not waiting longer to react. It's seeing more before you do. Most respect leaks in micro moments. Someone interrupts, you let it slide. Someone says something dismissive, you laugh it off. Someone goes around you, you decide to handle it later, and then later never comes. In each of these moments, you're reacting to your own anxiety about being seen as difficult, not to what the room is actually doing. Slow down. See what just happened, then respond on purpose. Most of the work isn't in the response, it's in the seeing. This is the one that holds the rest of them up. This shift is important. You have to lead as yourself, not the version of a leader that you think you're supposed to be. Your team can tell when you're performing. They can also tell when you're not. And that, more than anything you say, is what shifts the room. Here's something I come back to often. When I was younger, I couldn't stand avocados. The texture, the taste, all of it. But here's what's interesting. The avocados in the grocery store didn't lose value because of me. People kept purchasing them. They kept loving them, building entire menus around them. As a matter of fact, their nutritional value did not decline or increase because I did not like them. So my opinion, it didn't move their worth. Now let's fast forward this to right now. I love avocados. They didn't go up in their value because I changed my mind either. Their worth was set independent of anybody's opinion, including mine. I want you to know your worth as a leader works the same way. The version of you that's performing, the version that's trying to match someone else's taste, the real you doesn't need that. Your worth was set before your title because the respect they're not giving you isn't being withheld from you. It's being withheld from the version of you that's performing. I invite you to drop the performance. You'll be surprised at what comes back. When you stop negotiating with yourself, your team stops negotiating with you. And that's the whole shift. It happens inside first, and then the room follows. If something in this video named what you've been carrying, I want to point you to one more thing. It's called Dr. Kara's Virtual Mind. It's me on demand, trained in every framework I teach, available at the moment you need it. You can ask it the question that you're sitting with right now, the one you're not asking out loud. The link is in the description. You lead well. Now lead yourself. I'm Dr. Kara. Connect to yourself first and then elevate and expand for those you lead. Until we connect again.